The average US household spends roughly $2,500 a year on fuel. But what if I told you that nearly 30% of that is unnecessary? In this video, I'm revealing 13 fuel-saving secrets gas stations don't want you to know. Some of these tips will not only lower your fuel costs, but will also protect you from expensive engine repairs and car accidents. At the end, I'll share a secret that can save you over $1,500, and it won't cost you a dime. Secret number 13. Stop using premium fuel for non-premium cars. If you instinctively reach for the premium nozzle, even when your car doesn't need it, you're not alone. According to the American Automobile Association, over 16 million American drivers make the same mistake. This amounts to over $2 billion wasted on gasoline that your car didn't use. Contrary to what the name suggests, premium has nothing to do with the quality of the gas. It does not improve engine performance, it does not clean your engine, and it definitely won't make it last longer. In fact, it might even shorten it. Premium is just a clever, or should I say, misleading name for high-octane gas. Regular gas has an 87 octane rating, while premium has between 91 and 94 octane. Higher octane resists pre-ignition in high-performance or forced induction engines. So, unless your car specifically requires premium gas, don't buy it. What about cars that recommend but don't require premium gas? Well, Consumer Reports performed an extensive test, and guess what they found? Premium gas offered no advantage. The extra 85 cents per gallon could have gone to something that will actually help your engine, like what I'll reveal in number 5. Next is another way to save hundreds of dollars per year. Secret number 12. Never ignore a dirty air filter. It's time to put this debate to bed once and for all. When every car had a carburetor, it was common knowledge that a dirty air filter negatively impacted fuel economy. Low air supply meant that more fuel was being wasted due to improper combustion. But is that still the case with modern engines? No and yes. Let's start with the no. Several years ago, a research paper published in Society of Automotive Engineers appeared to prove that a clogged air filter does not affect fuel economy in modern cars. That's because the ECU can adjust the ratio of fuel to match the airflow in order to maintain the correct air-to-fuel ratio. For your information, the stoichiometric ratio is 14.7 to 1 in gasoline engines and 14.5 to 1 for diesel. However, the paper ignored something crucial. When you have a clogged air filter, the engine becomes harder to start. This could be due to a low air-fuel ratio. If there's more fuel than air, it can cause spark plug fouling and engine flooding. Besides that, a dirty air filter affects engine performance and acceleration. Over time, it causes carbon buildup, which also affects fuel economy and engine longevity. The same thing can be said about the next part. Secret number 11. Always maintain the right tire pressure. Most people wait until the tire pressure monitoring system light comes on before they inflate their tires. But by this point, you could have lost hundreds of dollars worth of fuel. Why? Because most people are unaware of how the TPMS works. The TPMS only activates when the PSI is 25% less than the recommended level. For a regular car, that means the tire would have lost about 8 PSI. However, research by the Department of Energy and the Environmental Protection Agency shows that for every 1 PSI drop in all 4 tires, fuel economy is reduced by 0.2%. So with an 8 PSI reduction, that's a 1.6% drop in efficiency. Furthermore, a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration survey found that only 19% of all drivers had all 4 tires correctly inflated. That means gas stations are pocketing billions of dollars from our mistakes. Fortunately, correcting this won't cost you anything. First, check the door jamb, not the tire sidewall, for the correct cold tire pressure for your car. Next, check your tire pressure every month. tires lose approximately 1 pound per square inch per month. Now, will overinflating your tires increase MPG? Yes, it would. However, you're risking a blowout and premature tire wear. So, if you're lucky, you'll still need to spend $800 on new tires. That's if you don't end up in the ICU. Stick with the manufacturer's recommended tire pressure, and you'll be fine. If you want to save more fuel without risking your life, here's another good way to do it. Secret number 10. Remove the roof rack. Two of the biggest enemies of fuel efficiency are poor aerodynamics and excess weight. Roof racks tick both of these boxes. The same goes for bike carriers and cargo boxes. If you're not using them, get rid of them. According to a study by the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and NREL, over 100 million gallons of fuel are wasted each year because of empty roof racks. Their research found that per driver, this amounts to a roughly 2 to 5% decrease in fuel economy. However, when driving at 75 miles per hour, crossbars tank fuel economy by 12%. Unsurprisingly, empty cargo boxes are even worse, with a staggering 25% efficiency hit. The study also shows that it's better to have items in your trunk than on the roof rack. A loaded roof rack worsens mileage by 10 to 25%. This is due not just to the weight, but the aerodynamic drag. If you must use a roof rack, get one with an aerodynamic teardrop design. Also, keep your speed minimal. The easiest way to do that is with a modern feature that many people misunderstand. Secret number 9. Don't ignore adaptive cruise control. Every modern car is now equipped with a ton of driver assistance features designed to make driving easier and safer. However, very few people use them. Among those who have the technology, only 27% of drivers regularly use cruise control. A staggering 34% of drivers never use cruise control or adaptive cruise control, which is a huge financial mistake. Recent studies are conclusive that varying your speed often within a short period of time decreases fuel economy. For example, changing between 47 miles per hour and 53 miles per hour every 18 seconds can increase fuel consumption by 20%. The same is true of aggressive driving. At highway speeds, rapid acceleration and hard braking can reduce efficiency by as much as 30%. By maintaining a regular speed with cruise control, you can save a decent amount of fuel. Savings are even better with adaptive cruise control, as it eliminates hard braking and hard starts. On average, you save 5 to 7% on fuel when using ACC. This adds up when you do a lot of stop-and-go driving. It is also good for your brakes and your engine. If you insist on ignoring ACC and other driver assistance features, maybe this video will change your mind. 17 stupid habits that destroy your car before 50,000 miles. Now, let's debunk a myth that just refuses to disappear. Secret number 8. Stop idling so long. Over 6 billion gallons of fuel are wasted annually due to idling. Half of that comes from personal vehicles. While this is bad for the environment, it's also a burden on car maintenance and fuel costs. Yet, most people still prefer to do things the way their grandfather taught them. Unless your car has a carburetor, meaning it was made in the 80s, you don't need to idle for long. Modern cars get warm in seconds, even during winter. When it's cold, manufacturers recommend letting the car idle for 30 seconds before you start driving. That's because driving helps the car reach its optimal temperature quicker, while also using less fuel. According to the EPA, idling uses approximately 0.25 to 0.5 gallons of fuel per hour, depending on the engine size. Of course, this doesn't only apply to startups. When you're at a traffic light, the EPA recommends switching off your engine if you're going to be there for longer than 10 seconds. Besides burning fuel, idling also causes carbon buildup, corrosion in the exhaust system, and premature engine failure. Unless you're in sub-zero temperatures, keep idling to a minimum. As a bonus tip, the cabin also warms up faster during winter when you drive. If you're worried about your engine not getting hot enough, the next tip will take care of that. Secret number 7. Switch to lower viscosity oil. Nearly 60% of drivers unknowingly use the wrong oil in their car. This is despite the fact that manufacturers now stamp the recommended oil viscosity on the filler cap. However, using a viscosity even lower than this can further improve fuel economy. Thinner oils reduce engine friction by circulating faster, especially when the engine is cold. This means that the engine does not have to work as hard to move internal components, which results in fuel savings. For example, if your manual says 5W30, switching to 0W20 will boost your miles per gallon. On average, drivers experience a 2.4% boost in mileage. However, this only applies to full synthetic oils. Thicker, full synthetic oils outperform thinner, conventional oils. They also last longer before they degrade. The downside with thinner oils is that they don't protect the engine as well as thicker oils in the long run. What I recommend is to use thin oils in winter and slightly thicker oils in summer. But before your next oil change, you need to watch this. 19 synthetic oil secrets mechanics won't share. Next, it's time to reveal the most dangerous tip on this list, but it works like a charm. Secret number 6, the upside of drafting. Alright, so this one comes with a major safety warning. It is so dangerous, in fact, that it is illegal in all 50 states and in most countries. If it weren't, drafting would be the most effective way to improve fuel economy on long drives. Let's break it down. According to tests conducted by Mythbusters and the Society of Automotive Engineers, driving 10 feet behind a semi can reduce fuel consumption by up to 35%. Nothing else comes close to this, apart from completely stripping your car of all accessories to make it as light as possible. Unfortunately, this distance gives you less than half a second to react and will most likely end with you in a bag. At 20 feet, fuel savings reduce to 27%, which is still impressive. At 100 feet, you're down to 10% or less. So, what is the safe driving distance? State laws are very vague. They use language like, follow at a distance that is reasonable and prudent, or be far enough to safely stop without colliding. What that means is that the distance depends on the speed. At 65 miles per hour, for example, driving 100 feet behind a semi barely gives you 1 second to react. At that speed, you need to be at least 250 feet behind. However, this can still reduce fuel use by 1 to 3%. But if you have a need for speed, the next tip will help. Secret number 5, the AC versus windows down debate. If you've ever been on a family road trip, then you know how heated this debate can get. While it is true that air conditioning units consume more fuel by forcing the engine to work harder, the truth is more nuanced. Driving with the AC on increases fuel consumption by 15%. But on blistering summer days, this shoots up to 30%. However, this only applies at low speeds. When you're driving at 40 to 45 miles per hour, the aerodynamic drag created by open windows is minimal. However, a study by the Department of Energy shows that the equation flips at about 60 miles per hour. When the AC is on a 50% duty cycle, it saves more fuel in small sedans. Vehicles with poorer aerodynamic designs, like the 2009 Ford Explorer, are worse off until 80 miles per hour. You also need to consider the impact of extreme heat on safety. So, the general recommendation is to always use the AC on the highway and push the recirculation button. If you're looking for more extreme measures, brace yourself for something nutty. Secret number 4, get the junk out of your trunk. Ever wondered why new cars no longer come with full-size spare tires? It's not because tires have suddenly become indestructible. They do this because every extra weight reduces fuel economy. The Department of Energy estimates that every extra 100 pounds reduces a car's MPG by about 1%. So, if you're fond of carrying out golf clubs you don't use, work, or camping gear out of season, you're burning money. This is also bad for your suspension, but we'll discuss that in another video. Some drivers have taken this idea to the extreme by not only removing things from the back seat, but also removing the back seats. Pickup drivers even remove their tailgates. Another illegal practice is the removal of emissions equipment, which can weigh up to 200 pounds. However, risking a $2,500 fine to save 2% on fuel doesn't sound like a wise trade-off. Neither does paying a mechanic to unbolt your back seats. A better option is to follow the next common sense plan. Secret number 3, anticipate traffic like a pro. Do you know the worst thing about aggressive driving? Aside from the high death toll, expensive repairs, and blown engines, it's the fact that speeding doesn't actually get you to your destination quicker. According to research from the American Automobile Association Colorado, the average person only saves 26 seconds per day from speeding. The only thing it saves is you from an early retirement due to the mounting costs. Research by MIT shows that aggressive driving lowers gas mileage by 15 to 30% on the highway and 10 to 40% in stop-and-go traffic. If you want to get to your destination on time and save money, look ahead. When you see a red light a quarter mile down the road, take your foot off the gas and coast. See a slowdown coming? Ease off. That way, you won't have to accelerate from a stop. This will not only reduce strain on your engine, but it will also give you a bit of time. Here's another reality check about aggressive driving. Switching lanes is grossly inefficient. You think that lane is quicker? That's just FOMO. Constant lane changes will not get you to your destination on time, but they will increase your chance of getting into an accident. If you still insist on driving like a maniac, at least get the next thing right. Secret number 2, double check the gas cap. Nearly 1 in 5 cars on the road needs a new gas cap. However, because it's one of those parts we often overlook, most drivers tend to ignore it. What they don't realize is how much that decision is costing them. According to the Department of Transportation, you could lose 30 gallons per year from fuel vapors escaping a loose gas cap. That, by the way, is more than you'd lose from using the wrong oil or underinflating your tires. Because the gas cap is a critical part of the evaporative emission control system, your car will always throw a code when it's loose. That's another reason why you should always keep an OBD2 scanner in your car. If you see codes like P0457, P0456, P0442, or P0455, it means there is an evap leak. 9 out of 10 times, the problem is the gas cap, but the other 10% is caused by what we'll get to soon. Besides a loose gas cap, also check to see that it isn't damaged. Inspect the body, the neck, and the rubber ring inside. If any of these are cracked or missing chunks, especially the rubber ring, you need a replacement. Ignoring this problem will not only tank your fuel economy, but can also cause rough idling, hesitation, and even stalling. Now, it's time to reveal the biggest secret gas stations are keeping from you. Secret number 1, avoid the fueling extremes. Nobody likes making trips to the gas stations. In fact, going there less often saves you a bit of fuel. That's why many drivers make 2 very expensive mistakes. They only fill up when the tank is empty, or they overfill the tank. However, this is a dumb way to waste thousands of dollars. First, let's look at what happens when you're a reserve rider. Constantly driving around with low fuel is bad for your fuel pump. The pump sits at the bottom of the tank, and it relies on fuel for lubrication. So, when your tank is low, the pump can overheat and spoil. That can cost you as much as $1,500 to repair, including labor. Now, Let's dissect the opposite problem. The first obvious problem with topping off even after the pump clicks is that you can spill fuel. This not only wastes money, but also damages the coat of your car. Secondly, many pumps have vapor recovery systems. That means they can reabsorb some of that fuel, but they'll still charge you for it. Third, topping up can contaminate the EVAP system. This sits high inside the fuel tank. When gasoline gets in there, it no longer functions as it should. This accounts for the 1 out of 10 EVAP leak codes. You need to be careful with this one, because mechanics charge between $1,000 and $2,500 to fix EVAP leaks. And let's not forget the fact that when work is done on your fuel tank, you lose a fair amount of fuel, if not all of it. Talk about double jeopardy. This concludes our list of 13 fuel-saving secrets that gas stations don't want you to know. You would have noticed that some of these tricks not only lower fuel costs, but can protect your engine from serious damage and ridiculous repair bills. You'll also notice that fuel consumption goes hand in hand with oil habits. So, if you want to save some serious cash, watch this video next. Do this before every oil change and your engine will never die.